This conference will now be recorded.
So hello and welcome to all the participants. I am Rahim Zulfiqar from Excel Basement Private Limited. I welcome you formally to this webinar number 8, which is related to the Excel charts. And today in this webinar, we will be learning some advanced tips and tricks regarding Excel charts. And I will be telling you some useful day in, day out scenarios regarding the data and creating the relevant charts with it. So we have a couple of exercises here, and I will send you the files after the webinar ends, and you will be receiving an email with a recording of this webinar link plus the practice file as well, so that you can practice. So now let's get started. I have created some of the scenarios here, and if you can see the bottom of my workbook, there are multiple sheets here, and in every sheet I have created a different scenario, and I will discuss it with one by one. So we will be starting with basic, and then we will be moving towards the advanced concepts as well. Okay, so the first we will be discussing about that how we can do overlapping in charts. Then we will be discussing about how to add an average line, how to highlight the maximum value within a chart, let's say in a column chart, how to handle the negative bars within the data sets, how to utilize the secondary axis, what are those situations in which we can use the secondary axis, how we can add the trend lines and do forecasting within the Excel charts, if there are some missing dates, how to handle the missing dates, if we have a data regarding the actual budget and variance, so what are the appropriate charts regarding those, we will discuss that. Then we will discuss about how to create the expand and collapsible charts. If we want to drive top 10, uh, let's say customers from the data and present in an Excel chart, how we can do that, we will discuss that. We will be creating a dynamic charts based on developer tools, and I will discuss them. Then we will be moving towards how to add a financial number such as standalone, subsidiary, and consolidated into the Excel chart. So we have a scenario on that also. We will be creating a dynamic name ranges chart in which we will be utilizing index and match function as well. Then we will create one of the interactive charts based on data. Second last, we will be creating the tree map, and last but not the least, we will be create a gauge chart or the speedometer chart. So these are all the scenarios which I told you just. We will go one by one with each of the scenario, and let's begin. So the first scenario within the Excel charts. Before I begin formally, have your feedback on the chat window. How many of you are very new to the Excel charts? If you can write in the chat window, how many of you are the beginners in the Excel charts? Yes. So Omar, Altaf, you are the beginners. If you are the beginner in the Excel chart, write the beginner. If your level is intermediate in Excel charts, write intermediate in the chat window. And your feedback will encourage me to go through the pace of this webinar. So kindly, it's a request from all the participants to contribute so that I can know which kind of audience is with me. Okay, so the most of the users is giving their input as an intermediate. So definitely, and some of the beginners as well. So we will be starting with a beginners, and then we will move towards the intermediate concepts and also the advanced as well. So not to worry about it, just listen to all the concepts, and then we will move towards the advanced, right? So first thing is that for creating a chart in Microsoft Excel, we need a data, and the data defines that which kind of a chart is most appropriate. For example, if you have a time period in a data, so the line charts are the most appropriate. If you have the categories, then the column charts or the bar charts are the most appropriate. If you have a classifications, so then a pie chart can be very useful. If you have a P&L statement, you can create a waterfall chart from them. Okay, so every data has a different classification with respect to the charts. And for creating a charts in Microsoft Excel, uh, because most of you are the intermediate users, you already know we have an insert tab, and in the insert tab we have a different kind of a charts here. Okay, and let me just select this data and I will go to the charts, and here you can see that in the latest versions of Microsoft Excel, what the new thing is being implemented is by the Microsoft is that if a person don't know how which kind of a chart we need to create, okay, so there is a recommendations by the application itself within the Excel that it's suggesting you that which kind of a chart can be the best way to analyze the data. Or you can select by going to the all charts, and you can select the appropriate category which you are required to visualize that data. Okay, so in this first example, we have three columns: years, sales, and profits. And what we are trying to learn in this technique here in the first technique is that we will be learning that how to overlap in the column chart. Now, what is overlapping and why we need overlapping here? When we go to the advanced charts categories, you will find out that overlapping category is very useful there. So for creating a very basic overlap charts, what we need to do is we will select the data, and let's say first I go with the column chart. I just click on the column chart, and we have a chart which has three attributes in it: years, sales, and profits. Now we don't need to visualize the years, because years as a visual is irrelevant. So now this is irrelevant. So what I will do is I will just click on this blue bars, and I will press the delete key, because we don't need the years as a visual. We need years information as on horizontal axis. As you can see that we have a numbers on horizontal axis. We don't have the proper information of the years in horizontal axis. So what we need to do is we need to replace these numbers with the years. So what I will do is I will just right click on this horizontal axis, and here you can see in contextual menu you have an option which is called select data. So when I click on select data, you will get this dialog window which is called select data source. And here on the right side you can see that here is a category which is called horizontal category access labels. I will click on this added button, and I will select the range of which represent the year. So now you can see that on my this chart, the horizontal axis is representing the years information. Okay, now we have a chart title also. So for example, if I want to rename this, I will simple double click on this, and I will give a good name to it. So let's say overlap column chart. And if you want to make this title dynamic, what you need to do is, for example, if I write something in a blank cell, which is C13, for example, if I write my name here, Rahim Zulfiqar Ali, and I want that this specific title should be linked with an Excel cell, so that in future, if I change any information within the cell, the title automatically changes. So yes, we can do that. What we can do, I will just click on this title, and I will go to the formula bar, pressing the equal sign, and I will click on the cell which is I am referring, which is C13. So now as you can see that my chart title is being linked with cell C13, and whenever I change in C13, for example, overlap chart, so you can see that by changing a word in cell C13, now my chart title is also being changed. So you can link this particular title with your Excel cell as well. Okay, now coming back to the overlapping techniques, right? So overlapping means putting one bar in front of another bar. So as we know that sales numbers are almost higher as compared to the profits, so we will be overlapping the profit bars. And how to overlap in Excel charts? It's very simple. I will just right click on this gray bar. I will get this contextual menu. And in this contextual menu, I have the last option, which is called Format Data Series. When I click on Format Data Series, you can see that on the right side, we have a navigation pane. Here, you can see that option which is available called Series Overlap. And I can increase the percentage. As soon as I increase the percentage of series overlap, you can see the difference is coming in your column chart. And when I go with the 100% overlapping, now what you can see is that all the profit bars has been overlapped in front of the sales bar. Okay, so this is how we overlap two different categories in one column chart. So I hope the overlapping technique has been clear to you. If this is clear, kindly write yes in the chat window so that we can progress further. All right, thank you so much for the feedback in chat window. Let's come to the next topic now, adding an average line. Now, for example, again, we have three columns, year, sales, and average line, and we want to add an average line to our to the Excel chart. So what we can do is I will just select year and sales. I will go to the insert tab and I will click on, let's say, a column chart. Okay. Now I don't need years, definitely years in an inappropriate visualization. So I will just click on the year data bars and I will press the delete key, right? Now I want an average line to be added here. So what I can do is first I need to calculate the average. So calculating the average in Excel is very easy. You can go to the cell which is in E4. I am writing a function which is called equals to average bracket open, and I will have average of all the sales numbers year wise. And I got an average which is 659.7. Just making it proper and clean. So 660 is the average. Now I want to add a straight line to my Excel column chart as an average line. Okay, so how I can do that? So let me tell you once again. What we need to do is we need to have sales amounts in our column chart and an average also in our column chart as a line. So let's say if I select the data, I will go to the insert tab and I will click on the column chart. So now you can see that there are three attributes: years, sales, and average. So I don't need year. I will just click on the year column bars and I will press delete key. Now here you can see that all the averages which are in gray color are equal because average is equal, definitely. But the representation of the average as a column is not correct. This is the inappropriate. So we just need a straight line. So this states that we need to change this chart type. So for changing the chart type, I will just click on this bars, right click. And here in this contextual menu, you can see there is an option called change series chart type, right? So when I click on change series chart type, you can see a window here. And in the average category, instead of clustered column, I will select a line. And when I press OK, now you can see that the average line to the column chart has been added, right? So this was very simple. Now moving towards the third situation of our webinar. The third situation states that how we can highlight a maximum value within the numbers in the column chart. So for example, if I create a chart, which is the column chart, now years are not appropriate. And let me correct the horizontal axis. How we can do that? Right click on the horizontal axis, go to this contextual menu, click on select data, and here we can revise the horizontal axis as years. Now, can anyone tell me in the chat window which year has the highest sales? Write your out write your feedback in the chat window. Which year has the highest sales? Yes, 2018, right? Okay, let me change something in the data. Now, for example, if I change something in the data, can anyone tell me now which is the highest sales? Which year has the highest sales now? Yes, now the data has, because the data has changed, and now the highest sales is in 2014, right? What we need to do is basically we need to highlight the maximum value with a different color and the remaining with a different color. So whenever my data gets changed, what I need to do is the highest should be in a different color and the remaining should be a different color, and that should be automatically, not the manual coloring. Okay, so how we can do that? So we will be using an helper column, means extra column, and I'm writing a formula here. If D4 is equals to the maximum of entire range, if this logical test is true, then give me a value which is available in the current cell, or otherwise create an error with the NA function. Okay, so after applying a formula, what exactly is going on, that from the sales column, we know that the highest amount is 1350, and I need to extract the highest amount from a sales column to a different column. And if the amount is not highest, I am just generating an error which is called hash NA. Now, what is the purpose of generating hash NA? Because the errors are not visible in the Excel charts. So to generate an error within the Excel charts, basically we apply these kind of techniques in Excel dashboards. So for generating an error, very short function is already available in Excel, equals to NA bracket open bracket close. So by applying that, we can create an error as well. So for creating an error, why we are doing it? Because these are not visible in Excel charts. So now, if I select this data and if I go to the insert tab and I will click on column chart, the years are not appropriate. Now, as you can see that we have two bars on point number 3, or if I can reset the years as well by correcting the horizontal axis, for example. So now you can see that on 2015, we have two column bars with the two different colors. One is with the orange and second one is with the gray color. So if I overlap this gray color, for example, for overlapping, what we need to do is right click on that bar, go to format data series and make sure that you do 100% overlapping. Now what exactly happens is the gray bar comes in front of the orange bar and orange bar is basically behind the gray bar. Okay. So now in future, if any number changes, for example, if I change some numbers, so now you can see that the maximum bar is highlighted with a different color and the remaining are with a different color. Okay. So this is how um, you create Excel charts dynamically with the help of Excel formulas as well. Okay. So for example, if I change something here, you can see that there's a change here coming up. Okay. All right. Next, how to handle the how to handle the negative values, because as we know that when we create the Excel dashboards, there are some positive numbers and the negative numbers as well, and most commonly types we handle the positive numbers with the green colors and negative numbers with the red color. Mohammad Wasim Sajid is saying, what about minimum colors? As you can see that minimum highlighting, as you can see that in my this current formula, I have used maximum. If you want to highlight the minimum, you can write minimum function here. If you want to highlight the second highest, you have to apply the large function. So here your Excel function knowledge will be very handy for you, not just the Excel charts, but if you are an intermediate user and you know most of the Excel functions here, you can create your own creativity within the Excel charts as well. Okay. So let me just correct this data again. Okay, so there was a question from let's say Mohammed Usman, why not 2013 is showing now? I hope Usman you got the point. 2000 is now showing. Okay, and you can just again overlap this 100% overlap, and Let's suppose if I change this number to 200, so now you can see that the maximum is being highlighted with a different color. Okay, so I was discussing about I request that whatever your questions are, please uh, pause for a second, because we have a lot of scenarios right here. I will entertain your questions at the end of a 10 minutes of this webinar. So kindly hold your questions for a moment. Your questions will be entertained at the end of the webinar. So save your questions with you so that I can cover up the next topics as well. So the next topic is what I was discussing about, that sometimes we have a positive number, sometimes we have a negative numbers, right? And positive numbers mostly shown with the green colors, negative numbers mostly shown with the red colors, right? So let's suppose if I create a column chart, and this shows the definitely the positive numbers going the upwards, the bar of the positive numbers are going from 0 to upwards, and the negative numbers definitely are going downwards, 0 to negative, right? Now, one thing you can see here, that the horizontal axis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is not appropriate. The first thing is that we need to correct this information. For doing that, I will just right click on this contextual menu. I will go to the select data, and I will select the year series as well. Now the point is that this horizontal axis is coming in the middle of this chart, and I want to move this horizontal axis downwards. So there is no shortcut. You can drag and drop this horizontal axis. You need to apply the feature of this issue. So what we can do is right click on this horizontal axis, and in this contextual menu you can find out the last option, which is called format axis. And I will click on format axis, and from here on the right side menu I need to do some changes. The first one is, if you can see here, we have a vertical axis crosses. Here we need to select add maximum category. Okay, and in the labels, label position will be low. Okay, so the label positions will be low, and if I don't need a maximum category, so okay, so my vertical axis is on the left side rather than the right side. So as you can see that for dragging and dropping the horizontal axis at the below of the chart, right, what I need to do is I just expanded the labels, and the label position I set to the low. Okay, now coming back to this topic, let's say for the positive numbers I need to fill the green color, and for the negative numbers I need to fill the red color. All right, so how we can do that? Can anyone tell me in the chat window? If I want to change the colors, positive numbers green and negative numbers in the red, so how we can do that? Because you all give your feedback that you are the intermediate users of Excel charts, so I want to test your knowledge a bit. So let me tell you a very easy option to handle the coloring of positive and the negative option. And let me tell you this technique, and you will definitely like it. For example, if I am doing it manually, so what I can do is I will just click on this particular bar, and I will go to the bucket, and I will select the green color. Okay, and I will do it for one by one for every of the column color, right? But I don't need to do this. I will not handle the colors like this. What I can do is very simple technique is I will just right click on this bar. You will see a contextual menu here, and the last option states format data series. Okay, now when I click on format data series, on the right side you can see that here is a bucket. I will click on this bucket. I will expand the fill category, and here you can see an option which is called invert if negative. I will check mark on this option which is called invert if negative, and I will also click on solid fill. So after performing these steps, you can see there are two buckets. The first bucket, in this first bucket, I will select a green color for the positive numbers. And in the second bucket, I will select the red color. And I will close this format data series menu. Now, for example, later on, if I find something, a change in a number from a positive going from positive from negative, for example, if I write -80, so now you can see that the positioning and the color automatically changes. If I write something like 600, so now you can see that the colors and the positions automatically changes, right? So this is how you can handle the colors of positive and negative figures within the Excel charts. Okay. Next thing. So the next part is the how to handle the secondary axis. What are those situations in which we need to have a secondary axis? Okay. So I have a data which is of 3 columns: days, revenue, and number of calls. Okay. Now, for example, if I select this data and I will go to insert tab, click on column chart, and I will select a column chart, for example. Now, as you can see that I can see the revenue and also the number of calls at the same time in my Excel column chart. But due to the very small numbers as compared to the revenue numbers, the visualization of number of calls is inappropriate here, because the number of calls are the quantity and the revenue is the amount which is in thousands. So sometimes our chart become irrelevant in these kind of cases. So what we need to do is we need an extra or the secondary axis to handle these kind of small numbers. So let me correct it quickly how we can do that. So if you can see that when you click on chart and the chart is active, you have some tabs or the ribbons on top of your of these styles. So what we can do is we can go to the format tab, and from here I can select the series which is called number of calls. So all the number of call series has been selected on my chart. I will just right click on this, the contextual menu will appear. I will go to format data series, and now here you can see that on the right side, instead of primary axis, I will just click on the secondary axis. Okay. Now, after making secondary access to the number of calls, I will also change the series chart type, and I will call it as a line chart instead of column chart. So now the presentation, the visualization has been entirely changed as it was previous, because in the previous example, the visualization was not appropriate, because we have a situation where we have very small numbers which represent the number of calls, and we have a large numbers which represents revenue. And in these kind of scenarios, we need to enable the secondary access. Okay. So the next situation. All right, so we have a company which is called ABC company, and they do some sales. The sales are in billions, and we have some past data from 2012 till 2019, and they have made a very good progress in terms of sales. Their sales has been increased with the passage of time. So from 2012, the sales was 3 billion, and then it moves to 3.2, 3.9, 3.1, and till 2019 we have 7.7 billion of sales. Now we are in 2020, and we need to forecast that how, based on the past trend, how much will be the company is doing sales for this year, which is 2020. Okay. So there are two ways to do it. The first one is we can apply the forecast function, and there are so many forecast functions as well. If you are very good conceptual, strong in the forecasting, so you can grab that concept. In the basic forecast function, there is a straight line has been drawn, which is an equation of y is equals to mx plus c. So if you have somewhere studied in the statistics how to do the forecasting, and if you know the equation which is y is equals to mx plus c, so you can get an idea that what this function is doing. So let's go to the function side first. If we have a past data and we need to forecast the sales based on the past trends, in Excel we have a function which is called forecast. So there are three function arguments to it. The first one is the X. X is the current year, which is in A11. Known Y. Known Y are the past amounts, okay, which the sales amount which has done in the past. Then known X, the number of years of the past. When I close the bracket, I will got my forecasted sales for the year 2020, which is 7.30. Now this is with the help of a forecasting function. But what if we need to get this forecasting number in Excel charts, and we can do it by adding a trend line, okay? So let me just select the data from 2012 till 2019, okay? And what I can do is I will just go to the insert tab. I will click on column chart, okay? And here I don't need the years. So now you can see that we have some sales numbers. Let me correct the years, which is the horizontal axis. So we have from 2012 till 2019 numbers, and I need to add a trend line as a forecasting for the next year as well. So how we can do that? It's very simple. I will just click on this orange bar, right click, and here in the contextual menu you can find an option which is called add trend line. When I click on add trend line, you can see that if you have conceptually very strong, as I said earlier, if your statistics is strong and you know the concepts, that when to use the exponential growth trend line, when to use the linear, when to use the polynomial, for example, right? So depend on the industry, you select the trend line options. Now for this example, we will go with the default, which is the linear, and I told you the equation, which is y is equals to mx plus c. And here in the options, you can see that we have a category called forecast. And in the forward, I will write 1 because I need to forecast next year time period, only one time period, okay? When I press enter, you can see that this trend line has been increased and giving me a forecast for the next year, which is more than 7 in the vertical axis, which is approximately 7.3. So by the forecast function, you can drive that number. By adding the trend line, you can do this as well. Also, you can select this option, which is called display equation on the chart, which I told you, y is equals to mx plus c, or you can have a r square value as well, right? So these are all the numbers who know the statistics well, very well. Okay, so this is how we can add the forecasting trend lines as well in the Excel charts. Now, the next topic. The next topic is sometimes we have data, but there are some missing dates as well. And when we have a missing dates, we don't, and we hide that data, the Excel charts visualizations get changed. So let me quickly create a chart. Can anyone tell me in the chat window, by watching this kind of a data, we have two columns, dates and the price. Which is the most appropriate chart to create here? Can you write a name of a chart based on this data? Which is the most appropriate chart to create here? Kindly write in the chat window. So we have a feedback from Imran, a column chart, from Omar, timeline, Ahmed, always line chart, Wasim Sajid, Ahmed was line chart. Okay. Praveen is saying column. So as I told you from the start of this webinar, the fundamentals that whenever you find a time period, you will go with a line chart. When you find a categories, you can go with the column charts or the bar charts. So we can see that in our data, we have a time period, and the most preference given to the time periods is the line chart. And let me just prove this. When I hover my mouse on this line chart, this tooltip appears. And what this tooltip says, this says use this chart type to show trends over time, years, months, and days or categories. Okay. So definitely Excel is also saying you that whenever you find trend over time kind of data, you can go with the line chart. So let me create a line chart here. And now you can see that we have some price daily basis and we have some dates. Okay. And the flow is like sometimes it goes down, sometimes it moves upwards, like a stock exchange here, right? And now what happens is the issue here is, for example, now this is the actual visualization of our chart. Okay. Later on, for example, for any reason, if I hide some of the data, okay, if I hide some of the data, now you can see that my visualization is also being changed. Now this means that this visualization is only reflecting the numbers which are visible on the spreadsheet. This is not including which are hidden on the spreadsheet. And this definitely makes an inappropriate or incorrect visualization because we have that data, but that is hidden. And this hidden data is excluded by this line chart. So we need to control that. Okay. So how we can do that? Let me tell you. Very simple. What you need to do is you just need to go to this line chart, right click on this line. Okay. On this contextual menu, click on select data. Select data source window will appear. On the left bottom, of this window, you will find an option which is called hidden or empty cells. And here you can see that there is an option called show data in hidden rows and columns. I will just enable this option and I will press OK, right? So let's say if I hide some of the rows later on, my visualization is still correct. So it also includes the hidden rows data as well. Okay. So this is how you can handle the hidden rows data within Excel charts. Next, sometimes we have a data in which we have the actual numbers, we have the budgeted numbers. Okay. So which kind of best visualization can be fit in? So let me give you some of the ideas which you can like as well. So I know most of you have this kind of a data in your day in day out routine. Uh, something like products or SKU numbers or the cities and actual budget and the variance, right? So in this kind of a data, which are the most appropriate kind of a charts we can create? So let me give you 2 3 ideas. The first idea is that let me select 3 columns: cities, actual, and the budget. Okay. And I will press Alt F1, which is the shortcut key. And this is the default chart type, which is set in Microsoft Excel in my version. And here you can compare all these 5 different cities with each other with respect to the actual and budgeted numbers. So the actuals have been shown in the blue bars and the budgeted numbers has been shown in the orange bars. Okay, and we can compare that which of the city has made more progress as compared to the budget. So then we can compare and analyze. But this is very simple. What more we can add to this kind of a charts? What more we can do with the formatting, which makes it more attractive? Okay, so the first idea is, let me just select the data again, Alt F1, and I will do something here in this second chart. I will first apply the overlapping technique. So I will overlap the budget bars. For overlapping, now you all know how to do the overlapping. Simply right click on the bar. On this contextual menu, you can find out format data series option and you can do the 100% overlapping. Now, adding some more interesting things to this formatting kind of with the budgets is we can say that we don't need the orange color here. We make it transparent by clicking on no fill. We need a border line and we can increase the width of this border line. We can change the color as well, right? And now you can see that very quickly you can visualize the data, that what are the cities, which are the cities who have meet the budget, and what are those cities who haven't met the budget. So Islamabad and the Quetta are the regions who have not met the budget or the targets. So this is how, by adding 2 3 little formatting things, you can go with a good visualizations in the Excel charts. One more concept or the idea is you can select the cities data and the variance, and this time we will again create a one more chart, which is column chart. And in this we will do something like we did it previously. We will drag the horizontal axis to the bottom. For doing that, what we need to do is we will go to the labels and we will set it to the low. We can handle the green and red color variance colors by right clicking on this data bars, format data series. We will check mark on invert if negative and the solid fill, and we will define the colors in the buckets appropriately. So then we can see that the Islamabad and the Quetta are the regions who have not met budget. So these are kind of an ideas which you can see that from one data set we have created a 3 different kind of a charts, right? All right, so next is something about the expand and expandable and collapsible charts, how we can create that. So for example, if I have a data and if I go with the, let's suppose a bar chart this time. Okay, so I have created a bar chart, and now when you create a bar chart, there is a issue with the bar chart is that your data is starting from total sales Jan, Feb, March, April, and so on, but your chart is starting from December, November, and October. It's reversed. So when you create a bar chart, the vertical axis is reversed by default. So first we need to correct the vertical axis. For correcting the vertical axis, what we need to do is right click, format axis, and here there is an option which is called categories in reverse order. I will just click on that. Okay, and for the labels, horizontal axis at maximum category. Right now, the information which is not required here, we will simply click on that and press the delete key. So we are not required these kind of information now. No grid lines. Okay, to increase the width of these bars, what we can do is right click on format data series and decrease the percentage of gap width. Okay, so this is how you can increase the width of these bars. Let me make it a resizing a bit. Okay, a bit more transparent. For making it transparent, what we need to do is right click, format chart area, no fill. Okay, and now you can see that we have a chart here. Now the idea is how we can create an expanded collapsible chart. If you have sometimes noticed in Excel workbooks, there are plus and minus signs just before the rows and columns. Okay, and mostly on the rows, and that option is available in the data tab, which is called the outline, and we can group and ungroup columns and rows as per our requirement. So for example, let's say if we select rows from January till December, if I select the data and when I click on group, so you can see that before the number of rows we have something called expand and collapse button. Okay, if the management want to see the overall position, they can see that the total sales is 2456. If they want further breakup of it, they can just click on this plus button and you can see that all the months have been expanded, and now we can see the breakup wise. To hide this plus and minus sign, there is no direct button it have in Excel, but what we can do is we can apply the shortcut key, which is Control 8. So when you press Control 8, the expand and collapsible buttons get hide within the worksheet. And when you press Control 8 again, this can be visible as well. All right. So this is how we can create the expand and the collapsible charts. Next is we have a data and we need to find out the top 10 customers out of it. So let's create a chart, but this time let's create a pivot, and through that pivot we will create a chart. So first we will need to select the data, and I will go to insert tab. I will click on pivot table and I will press OK, right? And from here I will drag some of the fields, for example customer ID to the rows, purchase amount to the values. Okay, and because I need top 10 customers, what I need to do is I will click on this option, which is the filter option. I will go to value filters, and here you can find top 10. So I need top 10 items based on sum of purchase amount. You can go for the bottom as well. You can increase or decrease the number as well. Okay, so now I got the top 10 customers. Now by selecting this data, if I go to insert tab and when I click on, for example, a bar chart, now as you can see here, we have a top 10 customers on our this data. But what is something to be required here to make it more appropriate is we can't find out the highest person, or we are not able to find out the second highest person. Although we have the top 10, but the most appropriate sequence wise, sorted wise are not being presented. So how to correct that? The first thing which I told you, that whenever you create a bar chart, the axis will be reversed. So first you need to correct the axis. For correcting the axis, what you need to do is right click on this vertical axis. Okay, go to format axis. Okay, and here on the right side you will select categories in reverse order, and the horizontal axis crosses at maximum category. So now your column chart or your bar chart is basically appropriate with respect to the data flow. But now what you need to do is you also need to sort these as well. So what we can do is we will open this filter menu again. We will go to more sort options, and here we will select descending based on sum of purchase amount. So we got top 10 customers as a visual in a bar chart. And if we want to add specific numbers for each of the customer, what we can do is we will right click on these bars and we will say that add the data labels. So now the data labels are also appear, and we can identify easily that who is the highest topmost customer, who is the second highest, and the third highest, right? So I hope this technique has also been clear to you. We have done with the help of a pivot chart and a pivot table. So if you are clear up till here, so write yes in the chat window, so then we can proceed further. All right, thank you for the feedback. Now the interesting part is almost to start. We are moving towards the advanced charts now. Okay, we are moving towards the advanced charts, and I need your concentration. So let's begin. Now in this current example, we will be creating one dynamic chart. And for creating a dynamic chart, might be you have seen some of the Excel users use the developer tools and the buttons like check boxes, combo boxes, drop down list, right? So in the now we will be learning that how to implement those kind of forms, buttons with the help of logics, and how we can create the interactive and dynamic charts. So let's begin with first example. We have a 4 columns: years, revenue, net profit, and number of customers, right? And we need to create a simple chart, which is the column and a line chart, but we will make it a dynamic based on the checkboxes. Now to insert a checkbox, you need a developer tab. After the webinar, when you will be doing the practice, if you don't find the developer tab within your Excel application, what you need to do is you need to go to File tab, Options, and then you need to enable the developer tab as well. So if I can show you, you need to go to File tab, Options, okay, and then Customize Ribbon. And here you can see that there's this option called Developer. You need to check mark this Developer so that Developer tab can be visible in your Excel application. Okay. Next thing is that we need checkboxes. So for inserting a checkboxes, you can see that there is a group called controls and we have an insert category. And from the form controls, you can see on the third position, we have a checkbox. So when I will just simply click on this checkbox and I will drag and drop into my spreadsheet. I need 3 checkboxes because I need to show revenue, net profit, and number of customers. So I'm just copying and pasting these checkboxes. Okay. The next step is if you want to rename the checkbox, it's very simple. What you can do is you can just right click. You can just right click on the checkbox and click on added text. And here you can rename the checkbox as well. For example, not the sales, but for example, revenue, then right click, added text, net profit, and then number of customers. All right. Now, when I click on any of the checkbox, it shows me a check within this checkbox and I can check and uncheck by again and again clicking it. But there is a no impact on my spreadsheet as well. So remember that whatever you insert, whatever kind of a button you insert in your spreadsheet from the form controls, you need to link this object as well with your spreadsheet. To link the option button or a checkbox or anything with the spreadsheet, what you can do is right click. In this contextual menu, you have an option which is called Format Control. The dialog window of Format Control will appear. And here you have a category on option which is called Cell Link. So we will pick a blank cell. For example, in my case is B10. I will pick a blank cell and I will say link this cell with an object. So now when I check mark on the revenue, the cell generates true. When I uncheck this revenue, the cell generates false. This means that checkbox creates the Boolean values, either true or false. So when I check on the checkbox, it generates the true. When I uncheck the checkbox, it generates false. Similarly, for the net profit and the number of customers, I need 2 blank cells and I will doing the same activity as I perform for the revenue. Simply right click, going to the format control. I will click on the cell link. And now I can see that I can control my net profit checkbox and it generates a Boolean value. Last but not the least, for the number of customers, I will just right click. I will link it with a cell. And now you can see that the number of customers are also connected or linked with my Excel spreadsheet cell. Now you will get an idea very soon that why we have done this, okay? Why we have done this. I'm writing a formula here and I want you to understand if you are an intermediate Excel user, so you will quickly grab that what this formula is doing. So let me quickly write a formula here and I need your concentration to understand this formula. If B10 is equals to true, if this logical test successful, then returns me a value which is in cell B1, otherwise generate an error which is NA. And I told you earlier of this webinar that by generating an NA, errors are not visible in Excel charts, okay? So I will just copy this formula and I will paste it. So now, as you can see that when I check mark on the revenue, you can see that all this data above has been copied and pasted below this area with the help of an if function. So what I told Excel is that if there is a check mark in the revenue, the value becomes true here and logical test becomes successful. So if the logical test is successful, returns me the cell value which is in the above cells. Okay. So now, for example, if you can observe that we have NA in the net profit and number of customers, when I check mark on the net profit and the number of customers, the data is being copied and pasted with the help of if function and is running on the basis of this check boxes. Now the last part, we will select this data and we will create a column chart and we will do some customization. For example, we don't need a legend for now. We don't need years information in our charts. We need to correct the horizontal axis. For doing that, I have also told you earlier that we need to correct the horizontal axis to present the information better. We can overlap the net profits. Yes, right click, format data series, and you can overlap the series. We can, because the number of customers is very small as compared to the revenue and net profit amounts, we need to change the type and we will make this number of customers as a line chart. Now you can see that when I remove the check from the revenue get disappear because the NA is generated here and there is NA is not visible in the Excel charts. When I uncheck the net profit disappear. When I uncheck the customers are not appearing. So whatever I need to show in the chart, I can just check mark and I can control the attributes or the variables, you can say, which the management want to see. So this is how we create the dynamic charts. Ahmed Mustafa Siddiqui has said that when and why do we use this checkbox? So basically in the developer tab, we have a lot of objects, right? We have a combo box, we have the drop down menus, we have the checkboxes, and every button has its own output, has own specific purpose. For your understanding and concept, I will be sharing a PDF file with you in which I have created a different situations, and through that different situations you can understand that each and every button has a different purpose with respect to dynamic and interactive charts. So with the passage of time and with the experience and with the knowledge of Excel charts, you will learn that in which kind of a situation you need to appropriately select the right form controls and make your charts dynamic. Okay. So now moving towards the next part of our webinar. Okay, so let me show you the tree map first. Okay, and then I will come back to one more dynamic and interactive chart. Tree maps are also now see, basically most of the charts are very good custom visuals are now available in Power BI, because we know that Power BI is a business intelligence applications where we created dashboards, and we have a very big marketplace of custom visuals now available. But in Microsoft Excel, we have somewhere somehow, if you have the latest version, we have a good number of charts available. But if you have the Office 365 subscription, you can go to the get add-ins and you can download that add-ins free of cost. But still we have some limitations and we need to do a lot of calculations to create some very interactive charts in Microsoft Excel as compared to the other business intelligence applications. So this is one of the limitations, because we need to put a lot more effort to create very advanced charts in Excel as compared to the BI. So never mind. So let me explore some of the more kind of a charts if you have the latest version in Excel. So here we have a data which has the two columns, cities and actual, and if we want to analyze. So first option is Excel gives you, it recommends you automatically that these are the kind of a best fit charts for your data. But for example, if we want to go with a tree map which shows the volumes, so here you can have a kind of a tree map where uh, the volumes have been visualized according to the width and height. And in this kind of a chart, you can more add something like you can add data labels, like you can add the values, you can add the series names. Okay, so the tree maps are also useful when you have a lot more categories. Okay, sometimes column charts uh, get very mess where when you have a lot of products, when you have a 50, 40, 50 products. So the column chart will not be more appropriate. Then you can go with the tree maps. Okay, so in those kind of situations where you have a more categories, you can go for the tree maps, right? Let's come to the one more kind of a chart. Yes, this is something interesting. We have a data and we have four columns into it: years, standalone, subsidiary, and consolidated numbers. Okay, so um, years, standalone, and subsidiary consolidated numbers, and we will create a column chart. But this time, I want to tell you one more new concept. Okay, so the first thing is that if I select this data and if I go to the insert tab, and this time I will select a stack column. Okay, stack means that one category is above the other category, not on it separately. Okay, so for example, years are not appropriate here, so I will just delete that. Now you can see that the standalone, subsidiary, and consolidated has been splitted year wise. But in our case, what we need to do is we need to create two bars, two column bars. In the first column bar, we need to see the numbers of standalone and subsidiary together. And in the second column bar, we need to see a consolidated as a separate bar. So for doing that, we need to do some tips and tricks within the Excel because we don't have those kind of a direct charts. So what I will do is I will insert two rows in between of every data. Okay, now why I am adding two rows, let me explain you in a bit moment that why I have added two rows in between, why not three rows or why not four rows? What is the concept of adding two blank rows within the data? Let me tell you. As you can see that here on the first year 2010 we have three numbers: standalone, subsidiary, and consolidated, right? In one column bar we need to just see the two numbers together, but on the next bar we just need a one number, which is the consolidated. So what the second step tells us, we need to shift the consolidated number one step downwards. So every consolidated number needs to be shift downwards by one step. Okay, and now basis of this kind of a data set, if I again select the data, I will go to insert tab and I will click on stack chart and I will remove the years. Okay, and instead of numbers I will select the years information here. So now you can see that on the one column bar we have the numbers of standalone and subsidiary, and in the second column bar we have a consolidated as a separate. But you can also observe that between these two column bars there is some gap, and we don't need this gap. We need to eliminate this gap. Okay, so how we can do that? I will just right click on this consolidated bars, right click, format data series, and I will just make the gap width to the 0%. So now you can see that we have numbers of the standalone and subsidiary as a column, as a separate column bar, and for the consolidated as a separate column bar. Okay, and this is the year wise. So this is how we need to do some tips and tricks within the Excel to make sure that if we are doing some financial analysis and we need to create a dashboard. So sometimes our management prefers that you need to show a consolidated as a separate column, or you need to show a standalone subsidiary as a separate. So in those kind of a situations, we need to create these kind of a charts. Okay. Please make sure that your mics and camera should be off. Okay. Otherwise If you have enabled your camera, you will be seeing in the recording after on this video will be uploaded to YouTube. So you will become a rock star on my Excel Basement YouTube channel. All right. So make sure that you mute your mics and you disable your camera as well. All right. So now this is one of the most interesting and my most favorite kind of a chart, which I will be telling you with the help of an index match. And before moving towards this part, kindly, if you can give me a feedback, how many users understand index and match? If you understand index and match, kindly write yes in the chat window, please. So I'm waiting for the feedback. If you understand index and match, write yes. If you don't understand index match, write no. Now, if you don't understand, thanks for the feedback. If you don't understand index and match, if you understand a very bit or a very little understanding of index and match, my suggestion would be that after the webinar you first need to learn index and match, because in this webinar I am not explaining you the index and match, although I am explaining you how to utilize with the help of Excel charts and make a range dynamics. So in this webinar, I'm not covering the fundamentals of the index and match, whereas I will just applying it very fast, because I was assuming that you are the intermediate Excel users and you might be moving towards rather than VLOOKUP, which is now the traditional, and now we have the X lookup as well. So I was hoping that you know the index and match, but there, never mind. If you don't understand index match, there is no problem. You can just watch this webinar carefully, and after the webinar, first understand the fundamentals, and then you can actually grab the concept that how we have utilized them. Okay. Yes, Adnan Diwan has told us this example also include in your index match webinar. Yes, I have also conducted my very first webinar last month, and you can also refer to that webinar to understand index match as well. Thank you, Adnan. Okay, so now let me move quickly to the example that how we can create a dynamic range and create a dynamic chart. Okay, so for example, let me tell you the scenario first. For example, if I select these three rows, months, actual, and budget, and when I go to the insert tab, for example, because we have a time period in our data series, so we will be preferring the line chart. Okay. So now we have a chart, which is a line chart, and it depicts the actual and budget numbers from Jan to June, right? Now my wish is that I want to create something dynamic that if I can select the date, the time period. For example, I don't want to see all the months. I need to see the specific months. For example, I need to see the months from February till May. So when I select February from the from menu, and in the two I select May, so this chart automatically filters the time period. Okay, so for that we need to create the dynamic name ranges, and I am using the index and match function into that. Now before proceeding further, how many users have no idea about this data validation list? How many users does not understand this data validation list? So if you don't understand, write no in the chat window. If you understand how to create a data validation list, kindly write yes, so that I have a feedback and then I can proceed further. Okay, so some of you don't know that how to create this drop down menu. So let me quickly explain. To create a drop down list, we have an option which is called data validation. Okay, I would like to request again, kindly please mute your mic so that the interruption cannot be make further. Okay, so How to create the data validation list? It's very simple. You need to go to data tab, and here you have an option which is called data validation. And from this validation criteria, you select the list, and in the source, you define the range which you want to see in the list. So after that, you have a arrow, small arrow on the right side of the cell which shows you as a list of the months. Okay, so this is very simple and easy to create a drop down list with the help of data validation in Microsoft Excel. Now coming forward to the main part of this um, chart technique, dynamic name range chart technique is, first let me tell you the very basic so that you should not get confused. Okay, very basic, very basic. I have some numbers and I need to sum all these numbers. So I am using the sum function, and within the sum function, you can see that my first cell is starting from D10 and my last cell is D14. And this column means between. So all the numbers available from cell D10 till D14 will get add together, right? Based on this concept, we will be creating an index and match, and we will be copying and pasting those ranges into the name range, and we will be applying those ranges to the Excel chart to make it dynamic. Okay, so kindly concentrate. So those of you who know the index and match, kindly concentrate. Okay, and those of you who don't know, doesn't matter. After the webinar, go and watch my webinar 1 on index match and then come back to this. But this is very important. Okay, first for the dynamic name range, for the actual, equals to index, and within the index we need to define the array, this specific array, what we are required as an output. So we need a numbers from the actuals, and if you have observed the database, our database has been uh, set column wise, or all the months are column wise. Okay, so the actual numbers are presented from B6 to G6, and I will make this range as absolute. Then I will skip the second function argument, which is the raw number, because I told you that my data has been set column wise, not the row wise. So I will use the column number function argument within the match function, within the index function, and I will put the match function to look up the value. So the first starting month, which I will filter from the from menu, drop down menu, this will be my lookup value. Okay, the lookup array will be the dates or the months available in the raw number 5. This will match. I will make it absolute, and 0 for the exact match. Now this is the first point. This is the from point. Okay, now I need to make a 2 point as well, and for the between, you know that we use the colon. Okay, now again I will use index, actual numbers, and again one more match, and this time I will select the 2 cell, because this will be the end period which I will select from the drop down list. Okay, making it absolute. The range of months is presented in raw number 5, making it absolute, and 0 for the exact match. Now whatever it is generating here right now doesn't matter, because if you will use Excel 2010 or the previous versions, might be it gives you error. That's possible because I'm using the latest version, so it's creating an array and it's spill the array outside the other cells as well. So there is a concept of array behind it. That's not our topic of this concept, but you need to understand the logic formula here. We have created a starting point dynamic, which is this first part, and the end point, which is the second part, and in for the between we have used the colon sign. Now this was for the actuals. For the budgets, what we need to do is we just need to change the actual range to the budget range, and you can do that by just dragging and dropping it, so you got the budgeted numbers. Okay, next thing, for the dates, so again I will just copy and paste this formula. And for making a dynamic range for the dates, definitely we know that in the index, in the match, the array would be the range of a date, nothing else. What now the next part is, what we'll do, we will just copy and paste these three formulas into our name ranges. Okay, now those of you who are the intermediate users of Excel, and you know the advanced Excel as well, so you know the concept of name ranges. And to create a name range, you need to go to formulas tab, and here you have a name manager, right? And from here you can create a different name, kind of a name ranges. So what I will do is, I will just copy this entire formula. I will go to name manager and I will give it a name, let's say actual, which is perfectly fine for me. And I will just paste that formula here. So the actual name range has been created. Now I will just add it, this cell, and copy the budgeted formula which I created. And I will put into a name range which is called budget. Okay. And I will copy and paste this as well. Last but not the least, for the dates, dynamic dates, I will again copy this formula. I will go to name manager and I will give it a name as dates, and I will paste it. So now after copying and pasting all these formulas and creating a name range which is called actual, budget, and dates, now we will define these three ranges into the Excel chart so that our chart should make dynamic. Okay, now for doing that, what we need to do is, we will right click on these lines, we will go to the select data option, and here we need to do some changes. The first change, as you can see that on behind of this dialog window, you can see there is an animation and the data has been selected, which is the static data, not a dynamic. Months, actual, and budget. So what I will do is, I will click on this actual legend and I will click on add it. And in the series values, you can see that there is an absolute range which is called B6 to G6. Now this is the static absolute cell references. Instead of these cell references, I will just put that dynamic name range here, which is called the actual. Okay, then for the budget, again series values, and instead of this static absolute name range, I will call that dynamic name range, which is name budget. And last but not the least, for the dates, I will remove this absolute name range, and instead of this, I will put the dates here. So now we don't need further this outputs. I will just delete them. And now you can see that from the drop down menu, when I click Jan and when I change the time period March, so you can see that my chart is being now dynamic, and it's just showing the time period which I selected, Jan to March, here in the line as a line chart. If I increase the time period, you can see that it can increase the time period, I can decrease the time period as well. So this is how, with the help of index and match function and the concept of name ranges, you can create a specific time period dynamic name ranges chart as well in Microsoft Excel. Okay, so second last chart of our today's webinar is the interactive chart. And this chart is also very wonderful and one of my most favorite, and I used to deliver these kind of charts in my physical online physical classroom sessions as well. So let me explain you how to create an interactive chart. And first I found it on this chart on various blogs and websites on the internet. So this is very common, and there is no very hard formula function has been applied, and you will love it. You will love this technique of interactive charts creating in Microsoft Excel. But definitely later on you will find Power BI the most useful and the most dynamic interactive application for dashboard. But never mind. uh, as I can observe in Pakistan and in other countries, is still a lot of people creating their dashboard in Microsoft Excel, and still we have a time organizations to adopt Power BI at their full power. But coming back to the topic, this is the second last chart, the dynamic chart, which I will show you. And the last will be the gauge chart or the speedometer chart, you can say. and I will show you quickly that how to create a speedometer chart as well in Microsoft Excel, because we don't have a straightforward option of speedometer chart. We need to do some tips and tricks again to create a dial charts or needle, if you have observed in some of the dashboards. Okay, but before that, we will creating the interactive chart in Microsoft Excel. Okay. All right. So we have some data. There are a few columns here: revenue, cost, profits, and number of customers in millions. And we have three different charts: sales and cost, profits, and number of customers. And these are very basic charts. I hope now you don't have any confusion that how we have created these charts. These are very basic charts. You select the data, you go to some formatting options, and you can build this kind of basic charts. But our purpose of this webinar is to give you uh, an idea that how to create an interactive charts by using 3 or 4 tools within the Excel application. So these 3 charts are related to the sales and cost, profit trends, and customer versus sales per customer, or we can say that only the customer, because we don't have sales per customer at the moment. So what we need to do is we will create a drop down list here, and we will select the chart type, and the chart which is presented in a different sheet will automatically reflect in our this current sheet. Okay, so it will come automatically uh, with the help of the interactive charts activities. Okay, we have one question in the chat window: can we get great Gantt charts? Gantt charts, see, the most primary suggestion from my side will be for the Gantt charts is use Microsoft project, and I am trying my level best to uh, get an expert in the coming weeks for the Microsoft project to show you how to create a Gantt charts. But still, in Microsoft Excel, we can create the Gantt charts with the help of even conditional formatting and the AND function as well. And if you go to the Google or YouTube, you will find a lot of videos about the Gantt chart in Excel. But definitely, users cannot go very advanced in the Gantt charts if your projects are very complex. So my preference would be either MS Project, or if you are working in a department where you need to have so much of projects in a Gantt chart, so use the Oracle Primavera or the other software as well. But in this webinar, I have not covered the Gantt chart, but yes, I will when I will be doing an email to you after a few hours when the video will be available, I will add the link of the Gantt charts, or if any of the participant wants some other kind of a charts, I will give you a link to learn that. Okay, so let me quickly explain you now the second last chart, which is the interactive charts to create in Microsoft Excel. And in the last 10 minutes of webinar, I will take your questions, so don't worry. Okay, so first we need to have a drop down menu. Okay, so for the drop down menu, what you need to do is I will go to developer tab, insert, and from here I will use the combo box. Okay, so I have inserted a combo box here, and the combo box is basically empty here. So first I need to fill that, and also I told you that you need to connect this combo box with a blank cell also, right? So how we can do that? It's very simple. Simply right click, and let's say you can see this contextual menu. The last option is called format control, and here we need to fill some of the fields. The first one is the input range. What we need to show in the drop down menu is the input range. So I will just click on this input range. I will go to the other sheet, and I will select these 3 names, which is the sales, profit, and customers. And I need to link this object with a blank cell. So I will pick J4 in my case. Okay. So now you can see that my drop down list has been filled. And when I select any of the list item, this combo box generate a serial number incremental of 1. So I have 3 items in my list, and when I click on any item with a sequence, this cell generates a serial number, right? Now the next part is what we need to do is, for example, if I click on sales and cost here, so by clicking on sales and cost, The chart which is on other sheet should come automatically here on my this interactive chart sheet automatically. Okay? So how we can do that? First, we need to define the name ranges for these charts. And as we know that the charts are on the top of the cells. So on the back end, we have a cells, and by selecting the ranges, we can define the name range. So for example, I selected a range where the chart 1 is presented, and I go to name box and I write a chart name which is called chart 1. You can write any name but without spaces. You can use the underscore as well, never mind. For the chart number 2, I will select that area. I will go to the name box and I write the name which is the chart 2. For the chart 3, I will select that entire area and I will go to name box and I will write a name as chart 3. And if I need to check that, I can go to the formulas tab, click on name manager, and you can see here chart 1, chart 2, and chart 3 name ranges created. Okay. The next part, my question, and I want your feedback in the chat window. How many of you know how to use the choose function? How many of you know how to use the choose function? If you know, write yes. If you don't know, write no. Okay, so let me first explain you the choose function, okay? And then I will come back to this topic again. So it's very simple and easy. Let's say Excel basement Rahim, okay? I have wrote 3 different words in 3 different cells. I have wrote 3 different words in 3 different cells. And here, let's say if I apply the choose function, the first function argument says, give me the index number. It should be a positive number. For example, if I write 3 here, and you will get a concept why I have been written 3 here, why not 2, why not 1, comma, value 1. Value 1 will be the first cell of our data, value 2 will be the second cell of our data, value 3 will be the third cell of our data. So what I'm saying to the Excel is choose the third positioning cell number. So on the third position, we have L9, and in L9, I have the word which is Rahim presented in the cell. So the choose function will choose the third cell and gives the output. So for example, if I write 2 here, so based on this sequence, on the second position, L8 is the cell. So the Excel choose function will choose the L8 from, because I have wrote the index number 2 here, and it returns the basement, right? So this is the primarily concept of the choose function, that from a range it picks according to the index number. All right. Now the second last part is, as you know that our this drop down menu generates a number in cell J4, and this will be our base cell. Okay, and we will apply choose function on it, but within the name range. And you know that if you know Excel and you have created a name ranges before, so for creating a name range, we need to go to a name manager, and from here you can click on new. All right, and let's say give it a name, for example, chart selection. And here in the bottom in the refers to field, let me write choose function. So I'm telling Excel choose from cell J4. J4 basically generates a number every time when we select any of the item from a drop down menu. So we are telling Excel that choose a number from J4, and sequence has been defined here. For example, chart 1, chart 2, chart 3. Okay. Capital and lower smaller case should not be a problem here, but if you make a spelling mistake, that interactive chart could not be created. Okay. So lowercase and uppercase should not be a problem here, but spelling should be correct. Now, after creating a dynamic range called chart selection with the help of a choose function, now here comes the last part. I will select a random range here, which is entirely a blank range. I will press Ctrl C to copy this range. I will go to the Home tab, open the paste menu, and here you can see the last option, which is called the link picture. Okay. Now this range has been converted as a mirror image, as a link picture. And on the top of the formula bar, I will remove that range and I will write chart selection, which is the dynamic range. Now here you can see that now next time, if I select any of the title from this drop down menu, the chart automatically changes. So this is how, after applying 5 to 6 steps, if you have the concept of choose function, name ranges, right? So this kind of interactive charts, making it's not a very difficult for the Excel user. You just need to remember these steps. And this is how you can make the interactive and dynamic charts. Now the last part of this webinar is the speedometer chart or the gauge chart. Okay, so I have created a data and I have put the formulas also. The formulas are not very much difficult you to understand, but definitely there are some limitations to it. But I will try my level best to make sure that you understand the speedometer or the gauge chart in Microsoft Excel as compared to the Power BI, because in Power BI on one click you can create without any troubleshoot, but in Microsoft Excel you need some tips and tricks to create a needle or a gauge chart. First you need a donut chart, and then you need a customization to that. Then you need to have a pie chart, and by adding donut and pie chart together, by hiding some of the portion, you can create the speedometer chart, okay, or you can say a gauge chart as well. So let me quickly explain you that what is this working all about, and after the webinar you can apply on your different scenarios. It can be more than 3 categories in the speedometer chart according to your requirements. So and again, as I told you, internet is open. It's on the YouTube and the Google. A lot of Excel experts has written up very detailed blogs and videos on a chart. But as a trainer, I need to explain you some of the intermediate concepts about the speedometer chart here in this webinar. So I'm explaining you, and I also seen this kind of concept a few days before from the Ajay Anand YouTube channel as well. Okay, so the last concept of this webinar is related to the speedometer or a gauge chart, and it's also simple, but it adds a lot of steps to do it. Okay, the first is the needle. Let's say our speedometer charts from starts from 1 till 100, and we have a 3 categories, for example, lower, medium, and upper, or for example, fail, average, or excellent. Okay, so you can name categories, any kind of a name you can give it to that. I have just given the section A, section B, and section C. And you know that the portion will be the 100, okay, and that needle will be applied inside the 100 number. Okay, so section 1 has been allocated the 40 points, the section B has 30, and section C has 30. If you want to add more sections or more products, as your in practical example of the speedometer chart, you can, but it should be a total of 100, okay, not exceeding that. So the next thing is that you need a needle as well. So for creating a needle, we need to create a pie chart, and we need to hide or make it transparent some of that part as well. And there is a calculation in this. So needle or a width of the pointer is basically a needle minus the width of the pointer. Okay, you can increase and decrease the size of a width as you want in the charts, and the total is being created like the sum of the donut chart minus the needle portion, so that it can be retained up to 180-degree. Okay, now let me show you the practical side so that you can understand how it works also. Okay, the first thing is that I will select the data of for creating a donut chart. Okay, so I will select this specific area, which consists of 3 sections in a total. I will go to insert tab and I will click on charts, and I will select a donut chart here. All right, and I will let me maximize this. Now you can see a four different colors in my donut chart. The yellow portion should be hidden or invisible, and the blue portion denotes the section A, which is the 40%. This orange denotes the section B 30%, and the section C gray 30%. But we also need to change the angle of this donut chart as well, right? So for doing that, what we need to do is we will right click on this donut. In this contextual menu, you will find at the end there is a format data series option, and in this option there is a first option called angle of first slice. So the angle of first slice will be 270 degree. So when you make it 270 degree, the yellow portion will come downwards, and now we need to hide that, or you can say the invisible. So what we can do is we will go to the bucket and we will say we don't need a color to it, we don't need a legend here, we don't need a chart title here. Make this white background a transparent and no fill. Also you can change the colors by double clicking on each of the uh, box of this donut chart or the area of the donut chart, and you can change the color. For example, first for the red, the second is yellow, and the third for which is the green. Okay, so this was the first portion to create a gauge chart. Now we need a needle, right? For creating a needle we need to create a pie chart, and I have done some calculation here, and after the webinar definitely I will give you the file, and you can go through the file and understand how it has been developed. It's very easy, simple mathematical formulas are there, not very tricky functions of Excel. So I will just select this data and I will go to insert tab, and now I will click on pie chart. Okay, so when I click on pie chart, you can see that a pie chart appears, and from here we need to make some changes. So again, right click on this pie chart, format data series, and angle of first slice would be 270. Okay, then we don't need this gray area, we need to make invisible. So I know you know how to do it. Now go to the bucket, no fill, again this blue area, no fill. If you need to change the color of a needle, click on the needle, and instead of orange click on black. We don't need the chart title, we don't need the legend, we need to make a background white color, so we don't need a fill here. Now as you can see that there are two charts. The first one is the pie chart, which controls the needle, and the second one was the donut chart. Now we need to align them together. So to align them together, to make it as a gauge chart at the end, I will select the first and the second chart together by holding the control key, and then I will go to the shape format, and here I will use the alignment options, which is first center and then middle. Okay, and now you can see that it's now almost equal, or you can just increase or decrease the size of this borders as well, of this chart borders as well. Okay, to make it more appropriate. So now if I change a number in the needle, for example, if I give a number less than 40, for example 35, so you can see that the needle goes to the 35. If I write 40 here, that's 40. If I write 90, that goes to the 90, right? And let's say if you need to increase the categories, so for example, if I make more categories and if I give each of them 20, right, and we need section D, section E. So now you can see that we have also added the few more categories in our this gauge chart as well. So this was all about the today's webinar. We have learned a lot of different techniques, right? Different kind of dynamic charts, interactive charts, top 10 charts, expand and collapsible charts, actual versus target charts, adding a forecasting line. So I hope you like this webinar, and thank you so much for attending. The recording and the files will be available to you, so don't worry. Thank you so much again for joining in, and if you have any questions, do ask in the chat window or unmute yourself so I can hear you and answer you. Thank you.